Welcome to the party, WaveMakers. I'm super excited about this call. We got Bobby Leroux and Kim Fuller on the line. This is a couple that I was fortunate enough to meet when I was spending some time in Vail, Colorado. And there were some things that just instantly stood out first I met Bobby and the professionalism. I was in a young stage of entrepreneurship and I was like, man, I'm trying to get as organized and disciplined and professional as he is. He just kind of stepped into my world and gave me a glimpse of that next level that I needed to get to. So I was super interested in diving in. And once I dove in, I was like, wow, this thing's way bigger than I thought. And I met Kim and I got exposed to the Colorado Yoga Life magazine. And then they acquired Spoken Blossom. And I really got to see this shift of mindset. I'd spent years with people who were just talking about the internet. And here comes this beautiful couple in front of me who is like, yo, print magazine, that's where we're running and that's what we're into and that's where we're headed. And it just kind of created my a shift. And as I got to know them as people, I started to notice one thing specific, which is why we're having them on this call is they did not go out of their way to build this beautiful brand that they have right now. It just blends with who they are and their lifestyle. And I think that as me and Nick grow and as we begin to identify the things that we want, it's bigger than the financial freedom. It's bigger than the time freedom. I want something that coincides with my soul and who I am as a person so that I can live out my brand instead of having to make time for my brand. So, Bobby, Kim, are you on the line with us? I'd love to get this thing going and start picking your brains for the 16 people that are on and the thousands and tens of thousands of people that are going to see this recording over the years. But are you guys with us? Can you hear us loud and clear?
Absolutely, Mike, and thank you for the wonderful intro. Nick,
Yeah.
You as well, my man. Good to see your face.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Pleasure. Absolutely. Thanks for jumping in. If you guys don't mind, why don't you, spend 5-10 minutes and just let the people know a little bit about you guys and how you guys met and where you guys are right now and some of those some of that backstory.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So how we met and our it's interesting because Bobby and I became business partners. I don't know, I guess only about 4 years ago. And we've been together as a couple for going on a decade and just got married last September. So I'm from Colorado and Bobby is from the East Coast. He's from Connecticut originally. I had been living away from Colorado, and in 2010 we moved to Vail at the same time. Just good timing and some new mutual friends that we started to create allowed us to meet, and without going into that long story, started dating. And Bobby at the time was working as a bartender in Vail, and I was a budding freelance writer with a side job as a cocktail waitress. He had left a job in payroll back east and to sort of start a new vibe, new life in his late 20s. And again, I was 24 at the time and really excited to just pursue my journalism career. And I did that here in Vail for a solid 8 years. I mean, I'm still a freelance journalist and I still write for multiple magazines. So it was very evident, I would say, without putting too many words in his mouth, that Bobby was sort of unfulfilled, very happy with his move to Colorado, but looking for something that he could really sink his teeth into in terms of a career. And so I always sort of knew that, and I encouraged him to start a payroll company here in Vail, and that just didn't really resonate. And so when I was presented with the opportunity of buying a magazine, it sort of came out of left field. I had been working as a freelance writer, and I thought that this gig that was appearing was an editing job. But the founder of Yoga and Life publications, Yoga and Life magazines, Julie Rathke, she lives in Breckenridge, Colorado. And I was lucky enough to just be on a call where she was offering this opportunity to purchase Colorado Yoga and Life magazine, the license to the Colorado market. And after hearing the call and sort of understanding what that might look like, I called Bobby, and he has a sales his degree is in marketing and business, and with a lot of sales experience. And the one thing I didn't know about magazines was how to sell them, how to sell ads, how to make money in this industry. And I was able to brainstorm with him about that. And after quite a bit of hoops that, we needed to jump through to get this publication, because multiple people wanted to purchase it, we were able to secure a loan and make it happen. And we went into business together and sort of just leapt in. That was 3 years ago, like 3.5 years ago, when we bought Yoga and Life, Colorado Yoga and Life. And just last year, a magazine approached us called Spoke and Blossom, and she was looking to sell, knew that she wasn't the person for the job and wanted to see it in the right hands. And so she found us because she loved what we were doing already. And we did everything we could to make that possible. And now we have 2 magazines. They're both print, as Mike said, but we also have digital, fully operating digital opportunities for content and for advertising. Under the media house that we've just created recently in the last year. It's called Jaunt Media Collective. So we work out of a small office in Vail. And we also have a lot of side hustles still. Bobby's finally not bartending, but we teach yoga. We teach indoor cycling. Often we'll teach at events, fitness and wellness. And it's just really, as Mike was saying, everything we've been able to create with publishing has also blended beautifully with our lifestyle of health and vitality that we pursue every day.
I'm going to add something slightly to that, because I think it'll be important for where this conversation could go. I had a very, very successful career in Boston, Massachusetts, making tons of money, had lots of great stuff, didn't have a ton of fulfillment. And I had a non-compete that was very ironclad to 60 miles of the city of Boston. And if you know anything about the East Coast, 60 miles of the city of Boston is 3 different states. So really, I could not perform the business that I had been doing for 6 years, 7 years at that time. And I moved to Vail with this idea that I'd be here for a season and be able to be a kid for a season. And that's when I was 27 years old when I did that. And at the same time, just to, I'll let you guys take over this podcast after this. I mean, this interview after this, but at the same time, right before I moved from Boston, Massachusetts, again, tons of great stuff, drank a lot, hung out a lot of great bars. When I walked in the bar room, everyone loved me. It was awesome. Still unfulfilled. I went to talk to someone. I went to talk to a psychopharmacologist, and within 10 minutes, she wanted to put me on Zoloft and sleeping medication. And I tried to explain to her that I loved my life. I just feel something is missing. Something is not there. Something is not grasping and hitting. And I said, can we please just talk again? I don't want prescription drugs. And we talked again, and then she convinced me to take certain prescription drugs, and I took myself off of them. And I came to Vail, Colorado, and realized I was missing socialization and nature. I'll let you guys take over from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's not about taking over. We're gonna run this thing together, right? That's why we brought you on. I got a nice chuckle about you finally getting out of the bartending, because I can just totally resonate, just stuck. I take that liquid capital and I put it right into my business, and I'm hoping that one day it's just gonna make that transformation where I can walk away from the bar altogether. I think the most beautiful thing that I took from your words, Kim, is that you guys took a leap of faith and then almost instantly doubled down, right? You guys took a leap of faith and you took out this loan and you acquired a magazine. And then within 3 years, you took on a second one. And we're like, let's do this. We're doubling down, right? And I think that there's so much there. I'm going to start us off. We're going to go, me and Nick are going to just ask you guys some questions, and you take your time, right? And answer them. Some of them are individual. Some of them are one at a time. Some of them are as a collective. I'm going to start, Bobby, just because you just touched on it. What was the biggest challenge for you when you made that transition from working for somebody else to running something of your own? What was that biggest mindset shift from doing the corporate structure and doing, the traditional way of making money that we're raised up in and that we grow to know and spitefully love? but what was that mindset transition that you had to go through to be able to effectively start getting into the routine of running your own business?
Well, I started young running my own business. Some illegal, some legal. So I had definitely a mindset of always wanting to work for myself. That was there, but then I didn't understand what it took to work for myself necessarily, to what it took to make it happen. And then I also saw, like a lot of people, there's revenue out there. There's this possibility of being rich, right? And like that was always the attraction for me, was how, well, if I'm running this business, so this guy's offering me this and I could make more money. So I would try everything to get to that next level of income, the next level of income. And that's really what happened with me, is I fell into kind of the societal norms of having to climb up this ladder that someone else made for me, right? This ladder that I didn't even know where it led to, that I had to just keep taking one rung at a time, that someone else put this thing in place, and I have to just trust that. And everyone would tell you, like, well, the security from this job that you have. And I worked in corporate America. I mean, I was like in a call center with hundreds of plus people doing it, and following the corporate ladder that everyone presented to me. And I also saw at that time that you were indisposable. So no matter how much you thought, or disposable, no matter how much you thought you were like the top dog, the best salesperson, now you moved up to management. Well, like the company shifts, something else happens, that person gets laid off, that person gets fired. So I was like, all this security that I was promised is kind of BS. And I knew, as being a young entrepreneur, that the same uncertainty lived in that realm. The same uncertainty was there. I always wanted to go back to doing something for myself, and payroll was, I was really good at it. And there was a really big opportunity to be, very lucrative in the long run, but there wasn't a passion for it. There wasn't, like, it was just literally to provide income. And I had chosen to move to Vail, Colorado, to get out of that rung of just doing something to provide income. So the payroll thing, yes, it was so attractive, but it wasn't. So, Mike, you met me. I was working in bars for the past 9 years, 10 years, and I'm really good at that. I'm great at being the guy serving your beverages and talking to you, especially, I'll have a beverage with you. Let's, have a good time. But again, it didn't fit my life that I really wanted, as far as that projection where I saw myself. So the biggest shift when I went back to it was getting my brain to work in that mindset. Because I had been a decade of being the bartender, the fun-loving guy, snowboarding every day. How many vertical feet did I get today? Rather than like, where was my mind actually thinking? So to sit at my desk for what it required to make our business work was extremely difficult. Retraining my brain, retraining the neural pathways to answer emails, to not get stressed out about an email. The things that I do now that are so second nature 4 years into it, it was difficult to do that, to train my brain. But I think I allowed myself that space of understanding that it would be difficult.
Yeah.
So like
learning how to plug back in to what it was going to take to actually make this ship run.
Yeah. And then also learn new skills on that same, piling that on.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome, man. I appreciate the answer. Nikki T, pass it along to you, bud.
Yeah, absolutely. Kim and Bobby, I love just the beginning of your guys' story, because I think a lot of us, if not every single person in this call, can relate with the desire to have more, right? And, we might be at different stages of that process, right? And you guys, I would say, are maybe a few steps ahead, have maybe a little bit more experience than most of us in this call. So my first question for you guys is, from my experience meeting people that have been in business, there's usually that breakthrough moment internally, right? Where they're like, okay, enough. I'm sick and tired of how I've been living, and I'm ready to really take on this new stage in my life. What was that breakthrough moment for you guys? What did that look like?
I know mine. I think they're going to be a little bit different, so I'll let Kim start.
For me, it was a little bit more of a slide in versus like a jumping off, just because I went straight from college into working for myself as a freelancer. So maybe that was the first leap in just Well, actually, I mean, yeah, I moved after I graduated. I moved to Scotland, and
She
I
graduated in the last depression or recession.
2000. I graduated in 2009, and there were no jobs to be had. But I had decided really early on that I didn't want to work for anyone, and in some internships, I had been managing freelancers. I'm like, well, I just want to be a freelancer. So I bought a one-way ticket to Scotland, and I just had wanted to live there, and I was connected with a journalist out there, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to make this work. And I started writing for online mostly. There was a lot of work. There was a lot of copywriting to be had. And I traveled all over and I did that. That was a huge leap for me. And everything just, I was trusting my gut with everything. Like, this is right. This is what I want to do. Keep following it, came to Vail, was able to pick up, because of the portfolio I had built traveling around the world and writing, I was able to pick up a job as a freelancer, but yeah, as a contract worker for the Vail Daily Magazine group, and they publish about a dozen magazines. So right away, as they started building their portfolio of magazines, I was able to be on board and build my portfolio from there and write for, the Denver Post, 5280, Outside Magazine, Forbes, all these like amazing publications that I was really on the trajectory of staying on that path and being a freelancer. And what I started to notice, when I moved to Vail, is I needed to subsidize my income, because even though it was cheaper to live here then, it was still not cheap. And so, yeah, I cocktailed. I was a cocktail waitress. It was like three or four nights a week, and I was still freelancing on the side. And I just remember when I finally was down to one shift a week as a cocktail waitress, and I would get out, 2, 3 in the morning sometimes, and it would even just one shift, it would just really unbalance my whole week. And I just remember thinking, I have to let this go. And when I took that leap of faith, when I left the job of cocktail waitressing, I was able to fully immerse myself in freelance writing. And that is truly when it catapulted. Like, that is when I was able to really focus on that. And that's when things just started happening. I started getting invited all over the world on press trips and connecting to all these different networks of journalists and magazines. And that's how I was connected with Julie Rathke, who we ended up buying Colorado Yoga and Life from. So it was really trusting each step. Couple big leaps. One of my favorite quotes, I remember hearing it in high school, and I always come back to it. It's leap and the net will appear. And I trusted, and I still continue to trust all the time, that if I leap, from a place of knowing, not from a place of reckless abandon, but a place of true intuition and trust, if I take that leap, there will be the support that I'm looking for, because I have put in the work to make that landing successful.
Wow, I just want to say one thing before you go, Bobby. I love that, because I resonate a lot, and I can see the applied faith principle that even in books like Think and Grow Rich that they speak about, right? Like, you had that leap of faith, that trust in yourself, and that next step, and not just all the way, but maybe that next step. And I think that's a good, easy thing that we can all practice and have, internally.
Yeah,
so I love
thinking
that.
back, there's a lot of little leaps of faith.
Mm-hmm.
Like Spoken Blossom was a big leap that we took a year ago. I mean, all these little leaps, buying our first property in Vail, leap. It's like all these things we've done, continue, just having an office space, leap of faith. And we've just been able to sustain by taking these small leaps and trusting, I'd say.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I heard you say towards the tail end was, I knew that the landing would appear because I've worked for it and I've set it up that way. And I think that is one of the biggest things that, I personally need to take in, is like, sometimes I forget how much legwork I've already done. I look at my business and I'm, and it's time to make that leap. And I'm like, oh, well, like, it's not ready, or like, there's not this and there's not that. And like the support, and what's the landing going to look like? And I forget that I have slowly but surely been moving in this direction for 3-4 years now, and have built some unbelievable contacts. So it is time to jump, and just knowing that you have done in that work. And if you're somebody who hasn't started doing that work and that's the bridge, I think that might be, one thing to take is, yeah, the landing is scary, and maybe it's not time to immediately jump until you feel like you have put in that groundwork to be able to provide some form of support for you to jump. You know, the amount of times that I personally have left the other making money early to dive in, and it just wasn't ready. So I run back, you know, and just prepping that groundwork. So I appreciate it, and I love this story. Bobby, why don't you share with us a little bit about, you know, your jump and what that kind of felt like?
Well, I think you and Kim really touched upon what I like to focus on, because it would be easy to say there was this one pivotal moment, right? Like this one thing happened and that's when it shifted. And that's really not the reality of it. Like I told you, my entrepreneurial spirit was born a long time ago. Whether it became dormant for a decade or two, it doesn't matter. Like all of who I am right now is a drip. It was like a drip of something, a little addition of this. That felt really good in my life. Let me add that in. Spiritually, I need this. Let me grab a little bit of that. Mentally, I need this. Let me grab a little bit of that. Business, oh, I'm learning over here. So everything to me that has happened with us, it's not by accident. It was because of a small drip somewhere. And I use that drip. It's not my own. It's from somebody, a business guy that I follow. It's like a drip campaign. Like I think about a drip in your house. Eventually the carpet will get wet, right? Like it's not, most things don't happen in this giant tidal wave. They happen in this progression of decisions that you make that leads you to a place that opens up a door that you step through. So for me, it's like that constant drip has led every opportunity to me. I've also, Kim mentioned it too, is like that opportunity presented itself and it wasn't scary, it was an opportunity. And on the side of every opportunity is a possibility that you can create something new. So for me, I kept adding all these little drips into the person that I wanted to be. And I had a lot of great mentors along the way. It wasn't, you know, this isn't like I'm a genius and I made it up myself. I chose a great partner who expects the best of me. So she's part of my drip, even when I don't want it to be there. So all of it is like decisions, little drips that have led up to this catalyst of a door opening. And that door opened, like I hear we're lucky. Like I believe we all create our luck slightly. And that door opened and we chose to step through it. And I guess that was the jump off in a way, was like we trusted each other enough. We had built upon a relationship that was constantly evolving of who we are as humans and this human experience we're going through, that we trusted that this business was the next venture. That was the jump off. Here we go. So it wasn't like it didn't feel scary. There was a point though, Nick, like you mentioned, I've started a couple different businesses and they all feel great and like they fizzle. That love fizzles, the energy fizzles, something doesn't go all the way. There was a jump off with Kim and I where it was like, we're cranking. I'm still at the bar. We're still teaching a bunch. We're doing all these things. And all of a sudden, like we notice our business is working. We're providing value to other people's businesses. What we tried to create, what we kept telling everybody for the past 3 years, this is what it's doing and this is what it's going to be, started to happen. So that trust, there was a jump off point. All of a sudden, I don't know if it was like 6 months to a year in, where I was just like, hell yeah, like we're doing this. And like, this isn't it. We got more. More's coming.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. I love it. I love the imagery, right? The drip. It's so important. Especially, you know, a little bit about our community, a little backstory is like a lot of young hustlers. And our generation, whether we like it or not, whether we want to admit it or not, like instant gratification. We just grew up with social media where it's all just instant gratification. But, you know, the average entrepreneur, it's taken 9 years to show its face for the average entrepreneur. And that doesn't say that somebody's worse off than the other person who it took 4 years. It's just the reality of the situation is it takes time, right? And so that analogy of, you know, it doesn't come in a tidal wave, it comes drips, but slowly but surely that carpet will get wet. You know, I love it. Here's my question to the both of you. If you could go back to the very beginning and place way more focus and develop one skill that you know would help you astronomically with where you guys are now and where you're going, what would that skill be?
What comes to mind right now, because we're in the midst of a sort of a website merge and redesign, I think that I really could have learned more about web development, coding, and SEO, because I just worked in it so much, and I was able to hire peers and friends to help me, which was really great, to like build my own website, for instance. But there's so many tools and classes available, and I think that if I had that in our arsenal right now, that I was able to code better and develop a back end that was just killer without spending the kind of money that it takes, and also continue to optimize our exposure as algorithms change, I think that'd be pretty clutch. And that's something that I can still work on.
Yeah. I love it. And Nick and I can 100% relate to that. We dropped like $9,000 on a website that, you know, and the reality with web design now is, who you're working with, they produce it once and then we're going to bill you again if we got to go back in and change it. Or like, the issue with us, and it's not an issue, it's a blessing, is, our brand is still blossoming. So what we had the website built around, we're now looking back and being like, well, wait a minute, like we're running on a different concept right now, and asking for that web design and that development. Right. We go, you know, so we definitely learned that the hard way, but it was a beautiful lesson to learn. So I appreciate you sharing, and I love it. Like, yeah, it's right there for you to grab a hold of, especially now there's so many people during the pandemic who are dishing out like free courses. And, you know, I've seen so much that's just free here. Just take it and engage with our brand. We're giving in a crisis. Hopefully that helps our brand in the future. So I love it. Bobby, lay it on us.
I think one thing I wish I could have learned younger was to not be so hard on my expectations. I think Kim nailed it. You nailed it. All the shit you didn't know or didn't learn, you didn't miss an opportunity. And you might not need to focus on your, like, personally, like you just saw me with technology earlier trying to get on. Like, I don't need to focus on my social media because it's not what I'm good at. It's not a passion of mine. I think sometimes we get this approach that we need to focus on everything and we need to be all. No, maybe you're damn good at coding. Maybe you're damn good at selling. Maybe you're damn good at talking to people. Maybe you have one niche that you're awesome at, and maybe you should focus more on that rather than dwelling on what you don't have. So I think personally, I just wish as a younger business person and a younger entrepreneur, I would have been a little less solid on my expectation of what should be, and had that little more of a student mind constantly, because everything we need now, especially now, is at our fingertips. We can learn it. You don't also need to learn it all. Like, there's someone out there who might be a pro at it. And if I can be really good at sales, I can earn enough money to pay the person to do my social media.
Nikki T, I can see the gut check over there.
Yeah, because I can relate completely. You know, I think what you just said is genius, Bobby, with not being so hard on our expectations, because, and that, I think that answer goes so deep, because it goes down into, you know, who we are as a person, and what is our image of ourselves, and what do we think that we're supposed to be in, who do we think we're supposed to be in lives. And so, you know, I'm sure that you guys can, you know what I'm talking about when I say this journey is like, you're just figuring out who you are, right? Like, literally in this entrepreneurial journey, you're figuring out how you work as a person. And I love that. I love that answer. And even what you said before also, Bobby, with the little increments of decisions that lead to the big things, you know. One of my mentors, he has the concept of a 2 millimeter change. Right? It's 2 millimeters at a time. It's not the big changes that create the big results, but a lot of times you forget that, you know? So that's a great reminder. I love that. Mike, you want to go ask something, or?
No, you're good, man. I just asked mine, but hey, if you're watching this and you're getting value, drop some ones, drop some twos, drop some threes. Let these people know that you're loving what they're dishing out.
Yes.
Love it.
Any questions too that you guys may have as it's coming to you, feel free to drop it on the chat, guys.
Love it.
So my question is, naturally it is an emotional roller coaster. There's being in business for yourself. It has its pros. Obviously, it's worth it in the end, right? But it also has the emotional ups and downs, right? So what is the source of inspiration for you guys? And maybe combine as a couple or as a team, right? Or maybe individually, but what is that source of inspiration that keeps you guys going and gets you to go to work and get the job done even when you don't feel like it, right? Because I think we're so tied to our emotions these days. I would love to, hear that answer from you guys.
I'll take that on first, and I know Kim's gonna have a similar but different answer. And you hear this, it's so cliche right now, like life balance, all that, but that's real to us. Like, we take care of ourselves first and foremost to take care of our business. We wake up in the morning, 97% of those days is fueled by some sort of athletic endeavor or exercise. Our diet is on point. We drink a hell of water. We don't have a Kangen water system yet, but someday we will. But to me, it's that inspiration doesn't come from one area. Life's like a roller coaster, right? Like, some days I'm down, some days Kim's down. So we do have that a lot of people don't have. We get to work with our significant other. And we definitely have, especially when we first started our business, there was probably 15 to 20 pep talks a day. Like, you go into a dark place and you need to get lifted back up somehow. But I do think it starts with, like, literally, like, our life is, we don't tolerate much. Meaning, we don't go through life just tolerating much. When something doesn't work anymore, we choose to change it. When something isn't serving us, we choose to add something in that is serving us. So yeah, we take it out and we add something better in. So to me, it's like, it's not just one thing. There's so many things, but it's incorporating all of it to being have-tos. There's non-negotiables. There's non-negotiable, we need to exercise. Non-negotiable, we're going to eat healthy. Non-negotiable, we need to have social interaction. Non-negotiable, we need to be spiritual with each other. Non-negotiable, we need to be supportive. There are so many non-negotiables that we have in our life, and that works. That's what makes it all for me. So, like, when I'm down, there's a non-negotiable. She's doing something that will lift me back up. Or that morning, I woke up feeling like hell. Well, I just went on a run. I don't feel like hell anymore because my endorphins are now, like, there's actually a chemical reaction happening in my body to make me happier. So there's so many things, but all of them are inspiring.
I love it. Taking care of yourself first, always, first and foremost. I love it.
Yeah, we've created a lot of tools, like Bobby was saying, non-negotiables, tools that have become second nature to us to implement in order to make it all flow, in order to feel inspired and balanced every day, to feel our best selves and to put that forward to our team. I mean, we manage a handful of people now, from interns to, contract writers and designers and, people who help us on the back end. So, I had a big sort of pep talk with myself on last Sunday. I didn't tell Bobby this, but I was like, I really want to show up for my calls this week in a really big way, like with my interns, because I'm so, like, I have the opportunity right now because we all know we're in this pandemic, and there's new space created. Even though we're still busy, there's new space created, and I wanted to fill that space with a little bit more intentionality for the people that I'm mentoring, because I am like, go, 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 go. And sometimes I jump on those calls and I'm just like, oof, I don't even know what I have left to give you, but I'm going to try. So I prep myself to really show up big for those calls. And, I was thinking earlier today, because I think a lot of people right now are struggling with their new normal, quote unquote, or creating balance in this particular situation. And for me, it's always been that structure in my life creates freedom. And, when I have certain things that I know make me feel good, like exercise, what movement in nature. And I also love our work. I love magazines. I've been obsessed with magazines since I was, since I can remember. like a middle schooler in the airport, you know, like buying all the magazines for the airplane. I loved them, and I still do. And so even though there's challenging parts of our business, I am inspired by it. It actually fuels me. We love going to the office. We love going to work. So that really helps. And I know it is so cliche and everyone says it, but it doesn't feel like work to me, except for those things that do. You know, there's like definitely, I told my mom that we're like revamping our website, and she's like, I love building websites. And I'm like, no, this isn't just like the fun part. Like, this is like the icky back end, like not fun part. And it's not like I can check a box off and say, whoop, I did that. You know, I'm going to invoice you and you're going to pay me. It's not that easy. It's the kind of work that is really project based, and it takes a lot of effort, and you know that it's going to pay off in the end, but it's, you know, it's the grind. The word you said earlier, Mike, I think it was you, Mike, hustle. I mean, I've always hustled, and I think it's a big balance now of making sure there's not burnout, like our whole generation, right? Not burnout associated with that hustle. And so implementing those tools, implementing those structures in my life so that I have the freedom to take a little time at the end of the day and not work until 10 p.m. You know, I have to make sure that I'm closing my computer occasionally. I have to make sure that we're connecting as a couple, not just as business partners, that I'm showing up for my community and for my friends and my family, because that's all an important part of making the wheels turn as well. So yeah, the biggest thing for me, I mean, our mission with Jaunt Media Collective is to inspire and inform. And that actually is what fuels me to create what we do, because I am inspired and I am informed every single day in our work. So
Love it. I love it. It's a beautiful story. One thing to touch on, Bobby, when you talk about, you know, the non-negotiables that you've put in with each other, you know, and being able to lean on each other and pick each other up and all of that great stuff. I think it's a beautiful testimony of what could be possible inside of a relationship. And one of the things that we as a WaveMakers community focus on for an entire first month of diving into our community, it's self-love, right? So before you can learn to lean on somebody else, like before you can learn to pick somebody else up and be that non-negotiable, you know, accountability partner for somebody else, what do the conversations with you and yourself look like in the mirror, right? And being able, you know, Kim, just like you're talking about, like showing up. I think that the question that I would love for our audience and the people listening to write down is, how do you show up for yourself, right? That's been a big thing for me, is I'm constantly trying to save the broken, and I give everything to fix others. And I am constantly reaching outwards, and I leave nothing for myself. And so how I show up for my business partner and how I show up for the people who are relying on me to be a solid leader, it's severely impacted at the fact that the conversations I'm having with myself and the non-negotiables that have been missing for myself are impacting everything else, right? So I love that you guys have found that, but I think the most important thing to grab a hold of is you found it individually first. And that's why it works so well for you guys to balance off of each other. Nick, did you have anything you wanted to add to that one before we moved on?
No, I think that was powerful. I think it just covers the basics again, you know, the importance of taking time for ourselves. I think I don't have anything to add on that one. I love it. I'm taking notes over here. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna wrap this up. This will be my last question for you guys. And this is, you know, this for me is one of the things that most attracted me to you guys, right? As a couple, as a brand, as somebody that I wanted to get to know more of and learn from, is I was told young to look at what everyone else is doing and do the exact opposite. And that's how you become successful. And here you guys are building out print media. And yeah, you guys have the websites and you guys have that awesome interaction, but I just remember speaking with you guys, and you guys have no interest of letting off the gas of the print media and the copies and sending that out and the physical copy. So I just kind of love to ask, is like, you guys are truly running in the opposite direction of a lot of people. And I would love to know the mindset as, you know, two hustlers who are making it work and very successful, is, you know, what's the thought process in terms of
why you guys are continuing to build out print media in a society where everyone's running online.
Yeah, it's a fun one. I mean, I'll let her go because we definitely, she's loves magazines, right? So we'll have two sides to this one.
Well, yeah, with magazines, but you guys know, like when you have a business, you have to look at what makes sense in terms of profit margin. I mean, our biggest overhead is printing these magazines. It is massive. So one would ask, well, why would you even print magazines then? If you can sell stuff online, if you can sell ads online, and in that there's so many realms online that you can sell, which we do, why would you bite off the overhead of these designers and the printer and the shipping and blah, blah, blah? That's a great question in itself, and one that we're up against right now as we are in this pandemic, and people are pivoting every which way, and we're figuring out how we're pivoting, and we're not ever pivoting away from print. But it always has to be a discussion of page count and how many we're printing and all of this, because it has a lot to do with the overhead, right? So for me, I'm encouraged, knowing that I'm not running away from print media anytime soon or ever. I'm encouraged that regional print magazines are actually doing very well, and that's what ours are, and they're niche, versus the older 1980s, 1990s models of these national and international publications owned by huge media companies and conglomerates that take a huge engine to run and produce. But in the end, quality and communication with your consumer, with your reader, goes down. And our idea is that as we connect more and more on this regional level, the quality that we can create, which means we do not print 1 million magazines, we print 20,000 or so, then we can create a more quality product, and the content inside is relevant to the people that are reading it. So they covet these magazines, like they collect them, they have them on their coffee tables all season long. They keep them on bookshelves and send us pictures of like the whole set, for both, for Spoken Blossom and for Yoga and Life. So I'm very encouraged that people are resonating with, coming back to holding something in their hands and feeling a connection to their community and just to their own relationship to learning and to reading and touching and feeling and having something tangible.
Yeah, I think you pose a really great question, because if this is the world of like 8-tracks to cassettes and then cassettes to CDs, right? Like we would look like idiots if we were like, no, 8-tracks sticking around forever, right? Like, so I think you definitely have to like evaluate the situation. Like, don't just stick with something that's old because someone else did it. What I saw in this, because I was not in the magazine side, so Kim calls me with this brilliant idea, and I was just like, wait a minute, too good to be true, slow down, like no way. I sat on the webinar, I listened to the potential to make income out of this publication. Then I meet with the woman and I ask the right questions, where we can make income, how is it possible, why is this going to be successful? And then we talk as a couple. So the research was done on the back end to me that we're not buying this worthless print magazine. And at the time that we bought these magazines, both of them, neither of them had a web presence, neither of them had an email list, neither of them had social media, none of it existed. So we were buying a print publication. When we took out our loan for the first magazine, she gave us 15 of the old copies, and that was what we got when we gave her a big fat check.
We got
it was like,
lists.
Yeah, but I mean, we got 15 copies of an old magazine, right? Like, that's our business we just bought. But it also showed me that's our product right there. In our hands, that was our product. How do we create the best product when someone picks it up? And after we did the research, I never thought print was dying, because I live in an area where, again, Vail Magazines, they have 12 publications on the shelves over here. You go to Aspen, they have 12 publications. You go to Denver, there's free magazines everywhere. I never understood the model. So to me, I saw the value in print, because my generation, like to pick something up. We like to have something. And I also, much like you guys, right, I grew up in that cusp of social media. And social media was becoming, to me, overwhelming. And how many messages did I get? How many pings did I get? How many email newsletters was I on? Whose message was actually getting to me? So when I saw this opportunity, I looked at it. I didn't look at it as going back to the A-Track days. I looked at it as like, no, this model has existed for a long time for the right reason. And it's existed and it's pivoted as marketing has changed. Print magazines have always existed. They've just changed and they changed and they changed. And how can we change to fit what's happening right now? And that possibility was there for me. It was pretty easy. If we stay regional, if we stay with solid content, with something that someone picks it up and they're like, it's textural, they feel it, and they're like, whoa, what is this? We'll be fine in print. When we start to dilute our print and try to cover too much and not provide value to the reader or to the advertiser is when our print becomes what's failing right now in print. So to me, if we can keep that content heavy, we can keep our readers on point mentally with there's an article about clean water. Well, and then there's an advertisement about WAVEMAKERS right after. There's a psychological thing that's happening, and we can provide value to both the reader, to the advertiser, to the consumer. And that's why I went towards the print. It wasn't just like a leap of faith of like, oh, this is cool, and I've always liked A-Tracks, and I really want to see A-Tracks survive, and I'm going to make them survive. No, I saw this industry that was evergreen in my mind, print advertising, that's pivoted throughout all of these shifts in our world. It's still there. Why? How can we make it different, and how can we provide value to someone? So I looked at it as we have a solution, and we keep doing that. We keep adding new products. We keep changing our magazine. We keep shifting so everyone can partake on it, whether your business is Nike or your business is WAVEMAKERS. So we have a product that will fit and probably benefit your business, especially if you do it the right way. So I don't know. I get that's a long answer, but I never saw it as like jumping into like the backtrack. I saw it as like, here's a product that has existed. It didn't go away. A-Tracks went away. Cassettes went away. CDs, print magazines, print shit has been there. How do we make it evolve to benefit the masses?
Yeah, I love it.
I love that. I love that answer as well. Do you mind if I say something?
Not at all. Eric Brown, come on in. This is Eric Brown.
Hey guys, I love that magazine too as well. I have it on my I carry it with me, actually, the one that Mike gave me. But I can resonate with you because I grew up. My father's been in the direct mail and print industry for 32 years, and that shows that, hey, 32 years, someone being in that space, it stands the width of time. And like looking at that is that being able to find that balance of using the digital space as well as marketing to those people, like you said, that have that physical, tangible thing. That's why books are still a big #1 selling. That's why Amazon actually has bookstores now, because people love that physical product, right? And so that's a great point that you bring up. And it's wild that I've asked that same question to my dad of like, hey, what is like, do you see job insecurity being a possible thing? And he goes, I mean, right now their job is an essential thing, according to America. So if we look at, hey, all of that's going on, that it's not going anywhere, and that they work with some of of his top of accounts are a Verizon and Sleep Number and Optum, all these big different brands that are out there, and their biggest conversions don't come from social media. They don't come from these different things. They come from the direct mail advertising that people are receiving. So being able to leverage that thing, and I totally support you guys in your business, and thank you guys for that wisdom. It's been super cool being a network marketing person and hearing someone from a traditional raw dog business side of things. It's been cool to see the overlap. So thank you guys for your time.
I love it. I love it. Just some things that I want to pull out of, Kim, especially what you said. I think it's so important to focus on your ability to connect with your audience, your consumer, like have that grasp, and build your sandbox. I see so many people who are running in the opposite direction, these big conglomerates and like some of these guys online, and enough is never enough. And their overhead just keeps climbing because they just want more and more and more. And even for me, I with my own social media, like people look at it and it's got all these likes and all these followers, and somewhere along the lines, I lost my connection to my audience. Like now there's just strangers and there's no connection and there's no fulfillment. I'm not posting as much because I'm, like outside of my Instagram story, but like in regards to just my actual post, like I lost myself in feeding the monster that is trying to do what everyone else is doing, trying to look a certain way, trying to be, something. And I think that what you guys are targeting, and the most beautiful thing that I'm seeing out of it is, hey, this is our niche. And like, we're super happy creating quality for our niche. Our people, they have every copy and they hold it on in their book stand. Like we wish them a happy birthday. We send gifts back and forth to each other. And Gary Vaynerchuk actually like goes heavy into that world of customer connectivity. And how close are you to your audience and your people? And just, furthermore, some of the people who I see who are genuinely the happiest and they make more stress-free money than anybody else it's not about numbers. They have a client list of like 50 people and they provide unbelievable, untainted service every single year, month by month to those 50 people. And that's it. And we're not taking on any new accounts. We're booked through 2027 and we're happy. And our cash flow model is flawless and our overhead is covered and some. So I think that you guys are in a beautiful place just building out what I take from that. What Kim, you said is, we really want to provide unbelievable content and really make everything relatable and connect with our audience on a regional level. Right. It's a beautiful story that is unfolding, and I'm super excited to be watching in on it. So thank you for that, Nikki T. I'll pass it along to you, bud, to wrap it up.
Absolutely. So I actually have one last question for you guys, but before I ask it, I just want to say two things that really stood out was you can bring in the importance of just adding value, right? Like, and that goes to every industry. I think that's the foundation of any business and business that thrives. It's how much value can we add and sustain and grow, right? So I love that. And also you, Bobby, saying, how can we build the best product, the best service, right? Having that mindset of we want the best. I love that. I wrote that down. That's very, very valuable. So the last question that I have is, and this is going to be a question that hopefully everyone in this call in their own passions, industries, dreams, they can grab something from this and run it for the rest of their lives. If you two could, with your experience, your knowledge, your success, your ups and downs, your lessons, right? If you right now could go back to the very beginning, okay, and not just do it over again, right? But if you had to do something in a completely different industry, okay, something completely different, what would be the maybe 1, 2, or 3 main nuggets of concepts or philosophies or lessons that you guys took that you could apply in any areas that will make you guys maybe see the results that you've seen faster, if that makes sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing that pops to mind first is to really embody your product. So I've just gotten into sales since we took over the magazines, had no idea what that was like. I mean, turns out I did, because I was selling myself as a freelance writer. And I didn't know that I was able to do that. But then as soon as we started selling the magazine, the ads and all the marketing opportunities, I was able to do that so authentically, like we're talking on the chat here about authenticity, because I've embodied and I believe in what we do so deeply that talking to people about it is so natural. And like, I get lit up, talking about our magazines and talking about the opportunities that people can have with them. So yeah, just if it's your product or if it's not, take the time to really get to know it and to learn to love it. I know Bobby has sold things in his life that he didn't love or he didn't necessarily even believe in. And he's told me about the difference in that experience. And then what Mike just touched on too is, I love that idea of like building your sandbox and in that authenticity that I just talked about, creating the connection that it's you, and people resonate. You guys know, like, people resonate with people who are speaking their truth and who are walking the talk. And that's something that Bobby and I seem to have always done, probably individually. But I know here in Vail, we just live the life that we love, and people see that and they are intrigued, and whether they follow us or they, you know, email us about wanting to buy an ad or they want to write for us, there's some sort of electric energy that is happening and will continue to happen, I think, because we're interacting with this world in a way that inspires us, and so that's inspiring others. So to just really be true in what you're creating and what you're connecting with is just the way to continue that like momentum.
Love that. Thank you.
A great question though. I mean, because we had another call. We do, obviously everybody's having a lot of Zoom meetings, and we sat on a couple calls. I think it was like 30 plus entrepreneurs on the call, and we did an exercise of starting with all these positivity in realms of our lives, and then like fear, and then breaking it down, you know, where we're at in certain things. I almost forgot where I was going with this for a second now. Come back to it. Your question.
Yeah. So the question was, if you had to take a few things from your experience, if you had to go back and do it in a different industry, what would those things be?
That one of the things we talked about, we did the positive exercise, then the fear, like your biggest fear, and then you break it down, and okay, you lose this job, and like that's basically where they brought you to. You lose this business, you lose whatever you have, right? And that's a potential for all of us right now. Like we all could definitely be on a whole different career path at the end of this. And I literally, when she said that, it was not a fear. I was just like, so we'll start something else. We have these non-negotiables in place. We know how to show up for each other. We know that we need to strive. So we'll just pivot and start something else. Yes, it will suck. Yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. Yes, we're going to have to learn something new, but we know what it takes to make this work. So why can't we just pivot and learn something else and make that work? So I guess for me, it was what you're saying. It is all a possibility. You're probably not going to be doing what you're doing right now in a decade from now. Like it's just the reality of it. We have so many opportunities that will present themselves to us. So to get stuck in like what you're good at, it's like, yes, get stuck in like what your values are, get stuck in, again, those non-negotiables, because what you're good at might change tomorrow. Our industry might change. Like print media might go away. I don't believe in that, but you know what I'm saying? Like it might be gone. We might have to pivot. Like the web, the World Wide Web, something else might replace it. Like now we're going to have to pivot again. So like, that to me, having those other things in place allows us to easily pivot when shit hits the fan, when we have to start all over, when we have to start anew. And I guess for me, one thing, my niece and I literally had a conversation 4 minutes. It ended 4 minutes before this call. She's getting approached by multi-level marketing. And I told her, I believe in multi-level marketing. You just have to believe in the product behind it, because then it'll sell itself if you believe in it. So to me, like you have to believe in your product, like Kim said, or it doesn't matter. I'm not just going to start a business in something I don't believe in. So that's one. And then also opportunities are there. Like they're there. Take them. It's up to you to take this next step. Like, what is it? Kim has a great saying, like potential is such an empty word, right? Like, you got to fill it. We all have potential. The doors are going to open for all of you. Are you going to step through it?
It's a decision. You have to choose that.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, Nikki, why don't you close us out and stop the recording, and then we can,
Sounds great.
Personally.
Bobby, it's been a pleasure having you guys here. We're very grateful for your time and honored that we get to learn from you guys. For those of you watching the recording, I hope you guys that have also enjoyed it as well, and hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. God bless. Take care.